All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA guy. So, what I'm going to talk about today is are the used to guy? And what I mean by that, or are you the used to girl as well? Are you somebody who constantly kind of talks about what you were previously or what you used to do, where you used to go, what your lifestyle was in the past all the time? And the reason I bring this up is because I think I've officially became the spokesperson for this, because a lot of times I'm finding myself talking to people and I'm always the guy saying, oh yeah, I used to do this. And the reason I bring this up is I went and met an old friend from Chicago like 20 years ago, and we were talking, and then some other friends, my co-host Robert and my girlfriend came and met us for cigars, and we're talking. He's like, Rich, I remember when you used to do this and you had this and I was making films with you, and talking about 20 years ago, basically 15, 20 years ago, all the things that I used to do then. And then fast forward a couple days later, I just was at my buddy's yesterday, actually, and we go to Stasio's, which is a really good Brooklyn-style deli in Orlando, Florida, near the Milk District. And he needed help. I didn't know this at the time, and he needed to move a bunch of furniture, some big tables and stuff. Right after that, I guess he had some family member and his father, but his father's hurt his back, so I was actually having some pizza, and he was having some antipasto, and then he said, hey, you want to go with me real quick? And I said, of course. And we were discussing the old days when I was in the vending business and how I used to do that, move tons of equipment and collect money and all these different types of things regarding our past, because we're very close friends. We've been together for like 30 years. And all the places we moved throughout the years. He's even lived with me. I used to open big companies and stuff, and even all this stuff. So I get home, and then my girlfriend, who I live with, has been wanting to put up these mirrors, like 3 different ones. They're not huge, and also 4 other pictures. And I'm thinking in my head, I used to put these up. I used to be really good at hanging picture frames, anything, mirrors, real big ones. I used to have, even in my house, 10-footers. And me and that same person who I met at Stasio's, Joey, he used to help me hang them. And my ex-mother-in-law, who used to own hotels and literally mansions and all these things, she'd move all the time. We'd move a lot of times, and we would be a thing where me and her got together for a couple days and just start hanging all the artwork all over the wall. When, again, I used to have artwork. Again, the used to guy, or that. So I'm going to go back and do that today. And the reason I bring this up is because I think, for one, I'm always telling people experiment. But I think what happened with me is I became somebody who kind of doesn't experiment as much as he used to, but I also don't do anything that I used to do in my past. I almost dread it. Even things I don't mind doing, like even yesterday with my buddy, moving tables and chairs and seeing his family, and they're Italian, and her giving me wines. It was really fun, even though, it's kind of a little daunting. You're moving all this furniture to a couple places, from one place to another, then another place to another, and then you got to go somewhere else and do it again. It was actually very fun. And I goof around and I tell everyone, don't ever ask me to move, because I used to, in the vending business, what a lot of people don't realize is you're basically a moving company. Don't get me wrong, you collect money, right? But we were in the gaming industry. We weren't in the vending where you bring food or coffee or anything like that. So it was basically all billiards, jukeboxes, dart games, tabletops, things in that nature. And all you really do throughout the day is either bring new equipment to locations, or you kind of get thrown out and you move them, or you bring them to other locations, or you update equipment. It's a moving company. That's what you are. And it exhausted me. And I used to go around and say, don't ever bother me. But I also helped my buddy, again, Joe, in Naples, and my aunt and uncle move some stuff. And again, the reason I keep bringing this up is I've been doing things that I used to do in the past that I thought I dreaded. But I don't dread it. I actually enjoy it. And you may be somebody out there, too, who always kind of talks about your past, too, and all the things you may have had money-wise, or all the things you used to do and maybe you can't do anymore. Here's the deal. Or you're embarrassed because maybe you don't have as much, is what I say, because I meet tons of guys. I'm not kidding. And they're always like, oh, man, I used to make so much money. That's one of the first things they always tell me. I don't know if they're embarrassed of the situation they're in now, and this is at parties, and these are actually some wealthy guys. Oh, I used to make so much money in real estate. Oh, I used to own all this property. Oh my God, I used to run all these businesses. I used to, all that type of shit. If we do wrap up our identities in the past, what the hell are we right now? I kind of get confused myself because I was known for doing a lot of things that not a lot of people were doing. Usually throughout my life, even living in Florida, being in the vending business, collecting money, maybe gambling, traveling a ton, even in my youth, bouncing all over the place to a lot of different places, very young, Vegas, being raised in a bar nightclub, making movies, writing some books, creating a program. I was doing a lot of things that other people weren't doing. But now, what is the future life for me? I almost feel, and I discussed this before on my podcast, what is the next move for me? Or am I going to become somebody who was the used to guy? I used to do this. That's just, and it's bogged me down. And maybe it's bogging you down. But, you just got to sometimes address these things. And it's just things I think about that maybe other people don't realize. And that's why I do the podcast. And again, you may realize it, but don't get caught up in that past identity and that hindsight. I've done podcasts on that as well, that lifestyle where, if I would have known this, this would have happened for me. I can't believe this happened, so I ended up in this situation. I get it. We all have that shit. But if, maybe it is time, and I've discussed this before, going to the past, if you're always talking about it and revisiting some of those things. One of the reasons you may have left that is because, who knows, you may have gotten out of a business or quit working out or quit doing things because you just quit at that point in time. That doesn't mean you can't go revisit it, especially with health and wellness. Even in companies, you may have failed a bunch of different times at maybe doing something you liked. You may have gotten fired. You may have opened a business and it didn't work out. And then you just you almost get nervous thinking about doing it again. And I've been there. I'm kind of there with real estate. I used to buy homes and stuff. And every time I brought a home, for some reason, I caught it when the economy every time would plummet. So I didn't make money a lot of times on my real estate. And everybody else kind of seemed like they were. So that's kind of something I'm going to have to eventually revisit. But again, I'm the used to guy people talking to me about, oh my God, you used to have these beautiful homes. Oh my God, you had the beautiful locations. And now I'm not there. And I'm kind of sick of talking about that as well. And maybe you get that way too, where you just, again, living in the past. But I just want to do a podcast on this. I didn't want to get long-winded, but just kind of pay attention. So I got to go hang up all these pictures, and I'm sure once I do it, she's going to be very excited. I'm also sure it's going to look really good. And again, I don't know why I hate doing so many things in my past that I actually didn't mind doing. I don't know if it's a form of laziness or stubbornness, but I'm telling you, some of the things you may have hated in your past, you may actually revisit and love once again. I've done a podcast on that before. Go back to your youth sometimes, or especially if you've left your neighborhood, and go back to your favorite restaurants, and if they're closed, whatever, or your favorite locations. I don't care if it's bars, nightclubs, I don't know, whatever. People revisit the homes that you used to visit, even if they're not there, just drive past them. And, that nostalgia feel, it just kind of changes the dynamic sometimes on the way we feel and how lucky we are to have lived the life we led. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you got any questions or comments, hit me up. All right, breakfast.